Hello everybody, it is Mike Levin on Thursday, February 25th, 2021. Let me double check that. Yep. Okay, so when last we left off, I was relating to you some of my nbdev thoughts. It's a way I'm going to update how I do development work, leveraging the power of Jupyter Notebooks. And so I was figuring out how two nbdevs were required to be installed on Windows, one here under Anaconda for Windows, and one here under Ubuntu for Windows. And one used pip and the other used conda. And I'm going to undo that for the sake of completeness. What this video is about is to cover my bases on the nbdev on Windows install, because maybe I'm wrong about broken CLI scripts, command line interface scripts, the ones that are kind of like the other side to nbdev. The first side of it being these embedded commands that tell it what files, what .py files to export to, and which functions to export to that file. And you do all that kind of markup and setup work and really development work. That's the delight of this in the NB notebook environment, where all your variables are persistent and all kinds of other fun things about this REPL environment that I'm talking about. So if you say a equals 1, your script is never really done running. You can check the value of a. You can say a equals a plus 1. And you can even check it out of order. You check this and there's your 2 there. So this is what's known as a REPL environment. And it's a great environment for working. You can also build in your documentation the way you see here, where these are really cells that have different types of markup in there. So you can really edit your code for readability, for explaining what things are supposed to do, and embed tests as you go. So there's all kinds of advantages to working this way. And I got it on my machine from an Anaconda prompt. For those people who are not familiar with this, if you were not so tweaked out on a Windows terminal with all these configurations set up, you would go into your start menu and then you would just start typing Anaconda Prompt. And one of the things that comes up is the Anaconda Prompt. That is a old-fashioned Windows command line or commands prompt, wrapped in a remapping of where things are found. That's what a virtual environment is. It's just the old Linux chmod trick saying get stuff out of this other location instead. It's no virtual machine or anything, but being in the old-fashioned commands prompt, it doesn't have all these things like resizing your font easily, command line history, all these things that come as part of being under the unified Microsoft terminal. So under the Anaconda prompt that I happen to be using under the Microsoft terminal is the command conda that was put there by Anaconda. That is how we install new software under their software repository system. So I had at one point followed the instructions on the site nbdev.fast.ai. Very important site for getting started with doing what I'm doing. And somewhere, mostly towards the bottom here, they tell you about the conda install. And that's what I had done. But I'm going to do conda remove fast AI and nvdev. I'm just going to remove nvdev. I know they put fast AI on here as well, but I'm going to try doing a pip install of nvdev and see how that turns out, right? So you can see here, remove a list of packages from a specified environment. So I'll do conda remove nvdev. This is what conda does. Every one of these repo software repositories has its own system for dependency management, what interacts with what. So it basically keeps a whole database of everything that, is in their software repo and its interactions with other software, and everything you've installed on your machine. They don't keep this, but you keep a record of this, of everything you've installed in your machine. And so they're able to really tell all the things you don't need, for example, when you uninstall. You're uninstalling nbdev, it has this long dependency chain, and if you're uninstalling it, you're uninstalling all the rest of these things that don't have any reference any references to them from anywhere but this package. You can see it's quite a lot. Wow. It's basically all of Anaconda. Okay, this video is going real casual here because I'm not even sure if I'm going to use it, but I have decided to uninstall conda nbdev, and after that was done, it uninstalled so many things and downgraded so many of my things that I actually did a conda update all to make sure I was back on the latest. And it's always interesting to see these things it installs. This is so the opposite of my normal approach to things, where you only install what you're going to be using. You reduce your surface area. I take a lot of the principles of, I guess, sysadmin and netadmin and all the stuff that has been rolled up under, I guess, the umbrella of DevOps to, normal everyday work, except that's a little excessively conservative. So what we're going to do here now is follow a little bit closer to their prescribed method of installing nbdev. Now, first, I am going to restart that server here that's responsible for this. And just another reminder that these little black boxes in the background that start when you start Jupyter Notebook or Lab really are doing something. If that's not there, that's not going to run. So that's this guy here. This is a restart of the server. You'll see the Jupyter Lab tab come back. Your tab comes back. And we're going to hit this new button, and we are going to choose a new terminal. So you can have a terminal right inside of nbdev, standard. These are the same tricks VS Code is lifting for their use over there. And color highlighting, language highlighting, so many things. So anyway, this certainly puts you into the right path, or base or whatever. It's very similar to going into an Anaconda shell, I would presume. And we can test that by typing conda. And there you have the command again. But we're not going to be using that here. We're going to be using the other approach, pip install nbdev, although there's a slightly different version of that they give out on this tutorial. Pip install, and there it is. So I'm actually following these instructions. Start Jupyter Notebook. From New drop down on the right side, choose Terminal, and then enter this. So this is in place of the one that we had through the conda install. Shift right click for browser menu. Can I do a Control V? Yes. Okay. This is the other kind of software install. Does not currently take into account all the packages that are installed. This behavior is the source of the following dependency. Oh, Spider, it doesn't matter. We don't really need Spider. But that other stuff seems to have been installed just fine. And we can try nbdev _tab. Hey, we're in PowerShell. There it is. And those are .exe versions. Here we go. So I am probably going to redeem myself here. cd ... from documents, cd into my GitHub folder, which is, yeah, that was doing the right thing. cd into my pipulate rebasing directory, and then we start to type nbdev build. Hey, look at that. Build. Let's see, this is what we want, lib. Enter. There it is. Look at that. So I am going to work my way up to creating the proper documentation. So, you know, there's a general rule here that I was trying to avoid. It was really bothering me that I had to use the Linux toolchain stuff to do what should be doable here. Now the thing is, they should be telling people to do this. There should be, especially if you're on Windows, what you want to do is to, like Jupyter Notebook has a terminal window available, so we'll use that. Now it's use that. I should really uninstall it and see if an Anaconda prompt under Windows Terminal would get me the same thing. Let's do that. Pip uninstall nbdev. Yes. Wow, that was fast. So when we try using that command, it should be gone. Now, let's do the equivalent. So an Anaconda prompt under PowerShell. So I'm probably going to update my my settings here. So these are some of my learnings. You'll remember that when I type settings, not from there, but from Ubuntu, that brings up my Windows Terminal settings that I can go in here and edit, and so I can control what commands are running my Anaconda. Right now I have CMD, but that could very easily be the PowerShell, and I think it ought to be given this latest discovery. So what I'm doing is I'm forgetting about these terminals for a moment and going to that type of window that you saw before where I brought up the Anaconda command prompts, but it's going to be a PowerShell version, which is going to be in there as well, right there. We should have conda, so it's PowerShell, and you can see we're in the right base for conda. There's our conda command. So we know we're in the right place. However, instead of conda, I am going to use that same pip install command that I used up here, which we should be able to get because I lifted it from here. Python-m space pip install nbdev. So before and after. The before is that command line thing is just not there. I get that error when I try and run it. I go over here to an Anaconda PowerShell for base. Paste in the Python pip install command. It goes through that process. I'm not even going to reboot the server. That file is back in location. So this is my redeeming video. After those past 2 videos where I did not think this was possible, I'm going to have to make a video about getting it right on Windows. nbdev, getting it right on Windows. And it's a very different thing than I thought it was. I guess I could have tried doing a find or something for files with a .exe extension, but the path I traveled down was an understandable one. If the mistakes can be made, they will be made. I work like hitting a barrier, backing up, turning a little, and seeing if it works. But even when I find a solution that works, if it's not the way it's supposed to be or not the way I'm led to believe it is, then it's worth looking at a second time and maybe even a third time, because some of those base assumptions might in fact be wrong, which they were here. And after this video and probably a nice, clean, brief tutorial on nbdev on Windows, I'll teach a perfectly clear, straightforward way to get to this point, because it's, like I say, it's a game changer. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.